Lots of games to get into and some really good ones. Let's start with the game I'll be at. Ohio State, number one in the country, on the road to face Illinois. Remember, just a few weeks ago, this was a top 10 ranked Illinois team. This week, they're ranked 17th in the country. Now, the Buckeyes come into this one with what has become the best single unit in all of college football. This defense has been outstanding for Ohio State, led by their new defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia. They've got great players, no doubt, but they've also got what I think is one of the more intricate schemes now going on in college football, and they can execute it because of the versatility of really three individuals. And listen, they're all playing well, but I'm going to name three. Arvell Reese, the linebacker, number 8. Zero, Sonny Styles. And then the great safety, number 2, Caleb Downs. Those three guys, their versatility, their intellect, the way that they can handle concepts, they make this defense so difficult to face. And the reason is, from an offensive perspective, there are no indicators. So you don't know what they're in. You don't know when they're pressuring, running man, running zone. All of that becomes very difficult, and then that defensive line has played really well up front. So that makes them the single best unit in college football, at least up to this point. They're only giving up 5 points per game, and they've only given up 2 touchdowns so far all season long. So that's what Illinois will be staring at across from them when they have the football. But that offense for Illinois has gotten something going in the last couple of weeks. Remember, we were there in Champaign 2 weeks ago when they got the run game going against USC, and then they got the explosive pass game going against Purdue last week. Illinois is averaging 38.5 points and over 500 yards over the last 2 games since that loss, inexplicably, by 53 points to Indiana on the road. Altmaier threw it for 390 yards last week. Luke Altmaier is playing great football right now. Very under the radar. Old player that is very smart, accurate with the ball. He can run it on the outside. In fact, last week he ran the ball fairly well for them, but he threw it for 390 yards, and he's averaging, listen to this, 15 yards per attempt since that loss to Indiana. So that offense has come to life. They're the best in the nation over that span, and he hasn't turned the football over. So watch out for Altmaier to have a big day. His counterpart on the opposite side, Julian Sayin. Now, here's the thing for Julian Sayin, is that, yes, he's a young guy, and Ohio State has allowed him to develop slowly during the course of the year. You can do that when you got a great defense and you got great players around him. But as the season goes on, we're starting to see the reins of this offense, the aggressive nature of this offense start to pick up. Saw that in a big way last week against Minnesota when he was taking shots down the field, namely to Carnell Tate. You know they've got Jeremiah Smith on the opposite side. But Sayin is playing really well. His accuracy blows me away when I watch him on tape. He's on time and on target. There's no doubt. In fact, he's leading the country in completion percentage at this point. You can't just focus on Jeremiah Smith, even though he's the best player in college football, because on the other side, likely first-round pick Carnell Tate torched Minnesota a week ago. He had 9 grabs for 183 yards and a touchdown. So again, there's not much you can do defensively to try to take away the best player, because Ohio State can hurt you in other areas. And oh, by the way, their run game has been very good. Sayin has played great this season, and I'm looking forward to see where his ceiling goes the rest of the season. That's going to be a good ball game. Ohio State at Illinois. That one's on Saturday. Big Noon Kickoff is going to be there. Big Noon Saturday. Gus, Ginny, and I will have the call. Next ball game, also in the Big Ten. Indiana, top 10 matchup on the road at Oregon. Indiana is 7th in the country. Oregon is number 3 in the country. And Oregon is favored by 7.5 in this football game. And listen, there's a reason. Oregon is an excellent team. It feels like, even though we've been talking about, and I have more specifically been talking about the parity in college football, it does seem like through about the first half of the regular season, 3 teams are starting to separate themselves out. Ohio State being one of them. They're ranked number 1. Miami is another one. And Oregon. Oregon is an excellent team, and this is a monster matchup in the Big Ten. It's going to tell us a lot about who is actually going to wind up in Indianapolis in that Big Ten championship game. Let's look at Indiana first. Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback, has been excellent. What a great fit he is with Curt Cignetti in that offense, the RPO-style offense. He was electric against Illinois, getting the ball out, very accurate on the outside. I really like what they've got on the outside at wide receiver, a guy that we saw last year for them, Elijah Surratt, a guy that has really come on this year, Omar Cooper. They've been fantastic, and now they go up against what will become their biggest test. Now, Iowa came after Mendoza last week. Indiana was able to get that win, but they blitzed him on about 66, almost 70% of his passes, and they were able to get to him and hit him, disrupt him a little bit. That's one of the reasons Iowa was able to stay close in that game until late in that ball game. My question would then just be, how do they protect Mendoza? Because Oregon's pass rush is very good. The defensive line played excellent against Penn State. They've obviously had the bye week. Now they're getting themselves ready to go and ramp up to play this home game. One thing for Indiana is, can they run the football? If you can't run the football and you become one-dimensional on the road against that pass rush, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. So they've got to establish the run game early in the first quarter in order for the RPO to be as effective as it needs to be. Now, on the flip side, you take a look at this Oregon offense, and Dante Moore has impressed me so much this year. His poise at Penn State, his playmaking ability, his arm talent, all of it, he's been one of the better players in the country. He would certainly be a Heisman finalist if I were voting right now. He's only been sacked one time, so the offensive line, which was rebuilt through the transfer portal, has performed really well. Now, I know that there was a lot of talk about, getting away with a holding here and there against Penn State, and that's just the way it's going to be every single week in college football. There's never going to be a ton of consistency as it relates to officiating. So I'm not going to weigh too much into that. What I am going to look at is the fact that this guy, Dante Moore, is excellent. They've got an electric, true freshman running back in De'Aaron Hill and a dominant offensive line. There's a chance that they could really own the line of scrimmage, even though Indiana, as we saw when they played Illinois, got after it up front. And that defense put a lot of pressure on Luke Altmaier, sacked him, I believe it was 7 times that night. And that could be a great matchup for Indiana, but they've got to get to him. Those are the 2 biggest keys for Indiana. Going on the road, we know they've been a great home team. Okay, they've taken care of business at home really the last couple of years. What we haven't seen them is go in a matchup game on the road and play their best football. We didn't see it last year at Ohio State, and we certainly didn't see that last year in the CFP against Notre Dame. So do we see that now? Is that the next step for Curt Cignetti and this group? 2 things that they've got to do in order to play well and be in this football game is run it on offense, and they've got to rush the passer effectively with their defense. Now, it's a 7.5-point spread. Oregon's 41-1 in their last 42 home games. Last loss was to the 2022 Penix team from Washington. I think, and this was difficult for me, I think Oregon, just because of their mentality and being at home, I think they cover the 7.5. I know that's a big number, but I'm thinking at a 31-21 style of game here, maybe a late score from Oregon. So I'll take Oregon to cover the 7.5. I think they beat Indiana up in Eugene. Red River, this should be a great game. My goodness. You got Texas coming in off of that loss. They're unranked versus a top 10, number 6 ranked OU team with all this life and energy, in particular surrounding their defense. We'll see about the quarterback, and I'll get to that in a moment. But first, Texas is unranked, have not played well against an FBS opponent at all, especially on offense. They're favored by 1.5. That's interesting to me because when I first looked at this game, I never look at the line and I just say like, well, what would the line be like for me? And I would say like, oh, OU 3.5. And I'm like, well, that's a 4-point difference. That's a huge difference. Now, as of right now, so I'm recording this on Wednesday, as you know. This is when I record this episode. And Oklahoma has kept it really close to the vest as it relates to Mateer's availability. All right, John Mateer is their heart and soul on offense. 17 days from surgery is when this game is going to be played on that throwing hand. He has been throwing the football early in the week, but as Brent Venables said in one of his press conferences, he has not done any good-on-good work. So my question would just be about like effectiveness. How well could he play even if he does get healthy enough to play? That's a question. That's absolutely a question mark. Now, if he's back out there, they might need to put up a couple more statues out there for the Chipotle rumor guy. Maybe Dr. Shin gets a statue outside. Oh, they got all sorts of statues. So it's like maybe some statues. Remember the Chipotle guy? He's the one that started this rumor. He's like, hey, I saw John Mateer at Chipotle. He told me he's coming back for Red River. Snaps a picture, puts it on, Instagram, the Snappy Chat, whatever it is. I don't know, guys. I'm 43. So whatever. He posts it on the line, as Vince Vaughn would say. And all of a sudden now it's a question about whether John Mateer is going to come back for Red River. Maybe that guy needs a statue. Now, in the game, I do expect this game to be somewhat low scoring because I do think both of these defenses are good defenses, even though Texas did not play well defensively last week against Florida. We know OU is a very good defense. Statistically, they're the second best defense in America. Offensively for OU, they're going to be taking in, if it's not Mateer, their backup quarterback, Michael Hawkins. He got the start last week against Kent State, played pretty well. And he won't be going into this one cold because not only did he get that start against Kent State, but he also started Red River a year ago. Now, that didn't go well. Yeah, I mean, he got the start in Red River a year ago. He's not going to be surprised by that environment. I think that that's a big deal because that's one of the more unique environments in college football. The Texas defense allowing 29 last week to Florida was a bit jarring. I thought that they were better than that. Their top corner, Malik Muhammad, his status is still uncertain in this ball game. But the real key in this game is actually for me the OU defense, and it's what's going on or not going on for Texas offensively. What we have not seen at all season is this Texas offense, Arch Manning, the offensive line, play well against an FBS opponent. There's no evidence. You can't point to any. There's no stretch of any game that you're like, oh, that's it. That's what they can lean on. That's what they can be from an identity standpoint. They don't run it well. They don't protect the passer very well. Arch has really struggled when and if they do protect the passer. So there's nothing to lean on that would suggest, other than the logo on their helmet and the name of their head coach, that all of a sudden they're going to turn it around and play really well offensively. That's just the case, in particular against a team like OU. See, I actually think Florida's really good defensively. I don't want to take anything away from Florida. That's a good defense. I think OU's defense is probably better than Florida, certainly up front. And when they're not protecting well, you look at this and it's like Arch was under pressure 60% of his dropbacks. He was sacked 6 times. OU leads the country in sacks at over 4 per game. They get after it up front. We saw it when they played Michigan. We've seen it over and over. We saw it when they played Auburn. Absolutely got after Auburn. So, like, what leads us to believe that all of a sudden that's going to change? I can't wrap my head around that. I do not see any evidence thus far on tape that Texas is all of a sudden going to turn it around on the offensive side. Therefore, I've got to take the 1.5. I think OU wins this one straight up, 20-17 in Red River in Dallas. I'm going to take the 1.5. OU gets the win, and they start trending towards a playoff spot because that defense, I think, is that good. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.